Being a travel agent specializing in Disney vacations, I see a lot of people that are ready to start planning a trip to Walt Disney World or even reach out saying, hey, I want to plan a trip to Walt Disney World for me and my family, and I think we're ready to get started. But after one follow-up question, they have no idea what they're thinking. They don't have dates in mind. They don't have a travel party confirmed. They don't know if grandma and grandpa are coming. XYZ. So I'm here to help you with what actually should be decided as you start the planning process for your Walt Disney World vacation. Hey, I'm Kinsey, a Disney-loving mama and travel agent who helps families tailor their Disney vacations to fit their budget, pace, and personalities. So before diving in with even that kind of first step of choosing a resort for your Disney vacation resort and ticket package, we're going to talk about what you need to know beforehand and some of the basics that you should consider before you start moving in that planning direction. First, you should start with when do you want to go / how long do you want to go. And obviously there can be some flexibility with this, but not too much or it's going to get more confusing than helpful. I do know that some people are really flexible because they just want to find the cheapest time or whatever that case may be. But overall, some people have some sort of time frame. So for example, I sometimes see clients saying they want to look at spring break or June. Or there's some people that say we really want to go during a holiday time. So we want to look at the best month during fall or the best month for Christmas activities. Or they just generally say we want to go during Christmas time, preferably between these 3 weeks. Can we look at the cheapest week between those three as we're flexible? Something like that is still at least more specific than just coming at it with like, we don't know when we want to go. We just want to go in 2026. I mean, maybe early 2027, but whatever is going to be the cheapest. I do understand wanting to plan on a budget. We do that a lot of the time, but let's be honest, it's going to take a lot of work for your travel agent or yourself to go through every single week. And I will say, as a travel agent, a lot of the times when I see people come with that mindset, it's usually a flag that they're not really ready to start planning. Because if you can't nail down at least a time frame or a couple weeks that would work best for you and your family, some sort of time frame, then I will say you're probably not fully ready to make the other decisions that need to be made. Or a lot of the times it's just wondering what the prices may range from. And in that case, by all means, maybe look to get a feel for the pricing and get a range there. But then after you kind of get what your budget might be from looking at a couple different dates, then after that, definitely nail down some time frames that would work best for you and your family. Next, who is going to be in your travel party? A lot of the times this is pretty straightforward. I know I've taken and helped plan multiple multi-generational trips where it's grandma and grandpa, their kids, their families. But you kind of want to, if you're going to be doing that, you kind of want to know the breakout of things. I.e., are you guys looking, if it's grandma and grandpa and two families, are you looking to potentially stay in a villa where there's multiple rooms and you can all stay together? Or are you looking to do your own spaces, maybe have your own rooms and request close or adjoining rooms? Because just as a heads up, if you do that, you can put in the request, but there's technically no guarantee. I will say for my clients, I think they've all been able to be close or adjoining when putting that request, but Disney does say that you're not guaranteed that request, but definitely put it in. So kind of thinking along the lines of how you want your party split up if it is going to be a bigger party. And then keep in mind that Disney wants to know the ages of the kiddos. So anyone under 18 at the time of travel. So because with Disney vacations, you can plan like a year plus in advance if you want to, depending on what's available and when you're planning. Your kids might have a birthday in between. So keep in mind that you are going to need to plan with your child's age at travel time in mind. And then, of course, what is your budget? A lot of the times when I work with my clients, I want to know what their budget is for the Disney vacation package specifically. But as a family, you probably want to sit down and think, what is our full family vacation budget, or at least the budget that includes the resort and ticket package plus flights if you're flying there. I know some people might drive there, so maybe that's not as big of a deal. Or maybe you want to include a rough budget of what you want to spend on food, or maybe that comes somewhere down the road. But you definitely want to consider what your budget is going to be moving forward, because there is such a range of resorts based off of type, value, moderate, deluxe, what amenities they offer, their location. The length of stay that you're going to be doing is definitely something that you want to consider, i.e. are you going to stay a Sunday to a Sunday, a Monday to a Friday, because that's going to play into the dates, the general length of stay, how many park days you do, etc. So that being said, it's also obviously going to play into your budget, because the longer you stay, the more that price is going to be. So definitely consider your budget ahead of time before moving forward. To recap, the main things that you want to have in mind before choosing that resort is going to be when you want to go and how long you want to go, who is in your travel party, and think about how you want that to be broken up potentially, or what you want that stay to look like, and then what is your budget going to be for that vacation package. So again, in today's video, we're just talking specifically before the resort and ticket package is confirmed. But part of that planning process goes into choosing your resort, because you do have to know what resort you're going to be staying at when you choose that resort plus ticket package and put that deposit down. So next, we are going to chat about what you need to consider when choosing your Walt Disney World resort. Obviously, like I mentioned, knowing your budget ahead of time is very helpful. Having a range, if you can decide with your family kind of a range on that budget, that's going to be a little bit more helpful, because then you can see some different resort options that fall in that frame and decide on what is important to you depending on those few resorts. A lot of the times, based on what my families are looking for, I try to offer around 3 options, because there are like 20 plus resorts at Walt Disney World, and going through all of them just to look is going to be more overwhelming than not. So I try to keep it with some options, but not too many options as to not get overwhelmed. So diving into what it looks like to start choosing your resort. Obviously, one of the tips that I mentioned previously in the kind of 3 things to come to the table with is knowing your budget or budget range. This is going to help choose your resort, because obviously there's value, moderate, and deluxe. And if your budget is a little bit higher, you may not even want to look at their value resorts, or if it's a little bit lower, you may not even want to consider most deluxe options. So budget is going to play a huge part in choosing your resort, along with a couple other things. And I emphasize a couple other things, because I do want to say budget should not be the only thing that is prompting you to choose your resort. If it is a scenario where you just know you want the cheapest Disney vacation possible, I totally understand that. And in that case, by all means, create that as your reason. But if you do have some flexibility and you're really wanting to get the most magic out of your vacation, there are definitely a couple other things to consider when choosing a resort besides just budget. So one of the biggest things, in my opinion, is location. So like I kind of mentioned, there's some that are closer to resorts. There's some that have different transportation options. And if you've seen, I'll link it below just for reference, my resort review recently on the Riverside Resort. One of the biggest cons for us there was transportation. So just location in general, what the transportation options are, how close they are to the parks, especially if you're traveling with little kids and you want to take breaks. You want to be able to get back to the resort quicker. You want to be able to not deal with a bus full of people every single day, potentially. This is going to be huge for you, because there are resorts that are in the Magic Kingdom area, and you can just put them in a stroller, walk to Magic Kingdom, and walk back when you're done. Or you can use the monorail to get to Magic Kingdom and Epcot at those resorts. So all 3 of those main resorts around Magic Kingdom are monorail resorts specifically. So that would be a consideration. If you're looking for some more like even moderate budget friendly options with close distance to the park and or another transportation option besides buses, there's always the boardwalk resorts, which are walking distance to Epcot, or even some of those Skyliner resorts, which some of the value resorts fall on that Skyliner route. The first one, and one of my favorites, has a special place in my heart, is Disney's Pop Century Resort. It is a value resort, perfect for like a family of 3 or 4 specifically, but it has that Skyliner access. So you still don't have to be taking a bus everywhere. It has that Skyliner to go to Hollywood Studios and Epcot, and it's a lot easier to travel with kids and break up that bus transportation with the littles. And then thirdly, you definitely want to consider the theming and what's going to be the most magical for your family. So for example, do you have a Lion King lover? Is your family most concerned about pool time? Do you want to see safari animals outside your window, like Animal Kingdom Lodge offers? What are the food options at the resort? Is food options at the resort going to be a big player for you and your family? There's just a lot of things when it comes to theming and amenities that you also want to consider when choosing your resort. Again, some of those things to consider when choosing your resort. Obviously, budget is going to come into play here quite a bit, but you also really want to consider the location and transportation options, especially as a family with some younger kids, and then even the theming and amenities that are available at each resort to make sure that you are choosing what makes the most sense to your family and something that's going to give you the most magic possible. The next piece that I want to touch on, which kind of plays into everything that we've talked about so far, is park days versus rest days. So obviously this plays a little bit into how long you want to go, a little bit into your budget, a little bit into what makes the most sense for your family based on what your kiddos like or what your family really wants to make sure and do. But it's definitely something that you want to consider before locking in that package. And that's not to say that you can't make some adjustments once the deposit is down, because you can edit your vacation package as needed until that final deposit is made. But it's obviously going to make more sense if you're considering that ahead of time and going ahead and selecting your initial package based off of what you're thinking. So to circle back with the length of stay, obviously that's going to depend on your budget a little bit, because the longer you stay, the bigger your budget is going to need to be, and vice versa. However, I would always suggest, if it is possible for you and your family, to have 5 full days, because if you're looking to do all 4 parks, then you have 4 different park days built in there, and then even a break day in between where you're not rushing to a park. You're making sure to enjoy your resort, pool time, maybe even spend the evening at Disney Springs doing some shopping, dining, because this is your friendly reminder, Disney World is so much more than the parks. There's water parks, there's Disney Springs, there's, like I said earlier, like 20 plus resorts to explore with all different theming, all different shops, all different restaurants, even some character dining in there. There's the boardwalk over by Epcot. I mean, there's just so much to explore and so much uniqueness around Walt Disney World. It is a lot more than the parks, so I would definitely suggest, if you have the time and budget to do so, to build in a full break day with your family, and also not rush around too much on your arrival day. That is a great time to do some of those other things outside of the parks as well. That being said, if you can't, maybe you're thinking something more along the lines of a 3-day park ticket with park hopper options. So if you don't have 4 park days to give when it comes to your budget or your time frame, maybe you just do 3 park days, but you add on a park hopper, which allows you to go from one park to the next and not just spend one full day at one park only, i.e. you could start your day at Animal Kingdom as it opens earlier than the other parks, do some stuff there, and then around lunchtime transfer over to Hollywood Studios. I know that's probably a good option for a lot of families with smaller kiddos, because while Hollywood Studios does have some great things to offer, like shows and Toy Story Land for some of those littles, it also has the least amount of rides, and a lot of those rides have slightly taller height requirements. So maybe that's a good option for you if you want to do less park days based off your budget or time frame. But either way, it's definitely something to consider. Do you want a park hopper? How long do you want to go? Where do I want my rest days to fall? Etc. Next week, I will be sharing sort of a part 2 to this planning process and what you actually need to know at the start of planning your Disney vacation. This was part one before the resort and ticket package is even secured. And then next week is going to be sort of a part two after that deposit is down and your Disney check-in day is on its way. What you actually need to start looking at, planning ahead for, considering between the deposit being put down and your arrival day at Walt Disney World. So like I said, that will be up next week, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. If this was helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And of course, subscribe for more Disney planning tips and tricks for your family. And as a reminder, I do help all of my families navigate through pre-trip decisions and questions as they're getting started with their planning for their Walt Disney World vacation. And of course, everything in between. So if you're interested in getting started with planning and that planning process, I will leave my link below and I would love to work with you. Until next time, keep chasing the moments that make your family happy. Bye.